kind of talking with Cheryl and JJ, it's like, should we bring in definitely, you know, conversation, the state needs to be here. But at that time too, there's been a lot of momentum with the subcommittee with other entities wanting to be more engaged. And it's just like, well, where do we go, right? Do we put it more on their shoulders, or do we still keep moving forward in some of the initial conversations that we had? The bear baiting is a huge issue. We understand that. You know, with the existing lawsuit that we have. And so it's just been trying to walking on thin ice on this one to help the subcommittee move forward with some things. I know we've got, like I said earlier, there are some things in place that I understand with the BA and the BO with the plan revision that if bears start occupied, is that correct?
That is correct. So we actually ran our food storage orders through JJ Tier to get his input onto it because we did not want to interfere with the bear baiting situation. So we've been trying to be very mindful of that, working within the fact that we're in a Section 7 consultation realm, and we really don't have a lot of room for public comment, but we've been trying to reach out on individual topics. So everything is predicated on if a grizzly bear shows up, with the focus of information, education, and outreach prior to bears showing up. So we've tried to build in that education up front, and then only if bears show up do other elements actually start kicking in at the project level, not at the forest level, because we want to be very mindful of the state's position. So that's what we've built in so far. If we need more discussion, I'm happy to provide more details.
And you guys, I want to do a time check though, because it's 11:08 and we have to go to the public comment at 11:40. Okay, so just kind of want to put some awareness, but we can keep going and we should keep going.
Hannah.
Or 11:20. Okay.
Hannah.
Thank you. As we're having this discussion around the Bitterroot, of course, I'm thinking about the North Cascades and that subcommittee and what work might be appropriate in the preparation stage. And certainly they're already thinking about that and talking about that, but is there any direction that we want to provide around preparing for occupancy as our Canadian partners are working, and what work can we be doing now to prepare for that potential? So I'm just throwing that idea out there. Sorry, and one last follow-up too, and the connection between the North Cascades subcommittee and the Bitterroot subcommittee as they're sort of facing some of the similar issues.
Thanks, Hannah. And I'm looking around. I joined their meeting. The North Cascades had a meeting last Thursday, and update coordination, hearing about Canada, hearing about different agencies was an important part of that. And then, as I understand their work plan, they've been sort of steadily, but as Ed has sort of suggested, not at the highest, recognizing that they've got time, and it's been a steady chipping away at some forest level work and preparation. And so that's what they have now, and I think I think they could put that into this new form that we're going to use for the reporting. Jackie, I don't know if you have a thought about that.
Yeah, I've been reviewing the work plan and caught the tail end of the meeting recently. I think from what I can tell, there is opportunity to consider some updates to the plan into the future, which is what I think the direction is going to be for all of the subcommittees, to take that hard look at the program of work ahead and to present that information. So I think that's where the big lift is. I understand there's also, of course, the transition in leadership in the subcommittee. And so I think I think having that kind of updated plan into the future for review will be very beneficial. But you're right. I mean, great work by the subcommittee in chipping away at the work items to prepare for grizzly bears.
Okay, so is there any specific motion, I guess, I don't know, I think other than participate in this overall review and update, I don't know if there is any additional specific direction. I'm seeing heads nod,
And no task,
no task, or no
or no,
proposed task.
no change,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So I think that's the subcommittees then. And so we've got 10 minutes until we had noticed the public comments, and we'll want to pause and see if there is any then. But to flip to the second question that you had in this packet, the overarching priority statements, and importantly, the assigned bodies to make progress on those priority statements. And so, yeah, this is on page 4. And so again, you've heard from Lori Roberts, you've heard from the Information Education Outreach Group. One of their articulated goals is ensure consistency of messages across all IGBC. They have a planned action that they'll be able to put into our new sort of reporting process, that they're planning an IEO summit in 2023. Right, Lauren?
Yeah.
And again, there's a group that's assigned to make progress on that, because we have IEO chairs in the subcommittees, and together under Lori's leadership, they meet as an IEO subcommittee that essentially functions in this hybrid range-wide way. And they've a subgroup of that has created this Bear Smart Communities, et cetera. So you've got a group that's doing work on IEO. So then, Frank, I see you there. The next one up is science, and this statement has been there. Support and coordinate integrative approaches to increase effectiveness and accuracy of population monitoring. And there may be other scientific questions that benefit from a range-wide look. And I think you and I have talked about the interaction that occurs amongst science teams. They have different histories, different makeups. But do you have a thought about taking that on, and again, recognizing that that is something that the charter sort of anticipates, I think, mirroring the IEO?
Yeah, so you and I had a good conversation about that, and I think there is room for more coordination among the science teams. And so I think you had made the suggestion of maybe an annual meeting, and I think that's a great idea. So that is something that I'm planning to pursue with the different science teams, and see if we can start coordinating that. And would be something, for example, in conjunction with the winter meetings. We add a science team coordinating meeting to that. So I think that's a great idea, and that's something I'll be pursuing and try to coordinate, David, here in the next couple of weeks.
And Frank, you also mentioned that at some point in the past, you've given sort of an overview of scientific activity.
Correct.
Because again, we asked the subcommittees to report on, as Ken has suggested, the status, progress, the plan on conservation. I don't know if you did that in coordination with the science team leads and the ecosystems, or if there needs to be a scientific component in the report from the subcommittees. What do you suggest there?
I think as part of that effort to at least communicate among the science teams and coordinate, we can also do an annual reporting out on the work, so that the executive committee members have a sense of what is going on science-wise among all the ecosystems. So I think that would be a logical extension of that coordination. So I would be all for setting that up as an additional agenda item for us to as science teams to report out collectively.
And again, we're not trying to be bureaucratic.
Yeah.
Okay. But it is trying to give visibility and sort of information flowing up and down, and also potentially identifying places, being efficient with resources and approaches.
I think though, again, we're looking, are there science needs direction from this group to either as a range wide or specific science teams. And I'm thinking about, Toby mentioned yesterday, integrating more of the population monitoring methodologies between density and the Selkirk and Caveat. Is that a direction we want to provide? We're talking about trying to model, and it's actually in the last one, it's model area or routes of connectivity between ecosystems. There's a whole social science piece, human dimensions, the different ecosystems are flirting with. We've done one Montana, a statewide attitude surveys there. It seems like, again, from a function of this committee, if there's science needs that we identify, we should be identifying those and relaying those to the group.
Agreed. Yeah, we want you to have the dashboard and a steering wheel.
And wheels.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Frank. So
Just
that leads.
one minor point to add, that, and what Ken is just suggesting, there is some precedence for that, back in 2012, 13, we were tasked by the Interagency Grizzly Bear Committee, not the Yellowstone Subcommittee, but the IGBC Committee, to address the whitebuck pine issue. And that was a big project that was specific to Yellowstone, but similar directives could be given to all ecosystems, of course.
Chris.
I've got a proposal for December.
Okay.
I mean, it would be really good to hear from the larger science, I'll call it science/monitoring. What are all the studies being done? How much money is still needed? And what are the priorities? And I say that personally because we give Wayne Case more money, we give U of M money. I don't know, Scott, how many? I mean, we give, for at least in my group, and it would be really good to hear a more comprehensive approach of what is really still needed for monitoring, for populations, trends, you name it, and so that I can tell my bosses that this money is critical and these are the areas it should go. And we're still working on assumptions at least 5-7 years ago, if not longer. And if Frank could get the Waynes and the Cecily's together and really give us a big picture of what's really needed around all these ecosystems, I think that would really help me out.
It would help all of us out, really, because we're all in it.
So I would agree, and I would also ask, and I do so cautiously and carefully, and not wanting to overtly step on toes, but I know I wasn't on tour yesterday, but I've had some conversations with folks that were and some awareness prior to, and I would like a more collaborative group of scientists involved with grizzly bears to look at the methods and methodologies currently being used in the Cabinet Selkirk on population demographics to make sure that those are representing the best available science and it's being done in a way that when we do get an IPM, we'll be able to inform an IPM. I just think that could use more eyes on it.
Or is
Well,
that a
I
statement?
think that is part of what a broader overarching science team will, the value of that to the collective efforts of this executive group is,
Also may be related to the action that was Selkirk Habitat to assemble pieces for a conservation strategy, which would need to use the best available science, right? So there'd be a dialogue there as well.
I look at it as a little bit differently. I look at a collective science team in a review of what's going on and are all the needs being met in a way that isn't violating assumptions of the models that are being used or the systems that are being used to analyze the data.
So my question is, I don't know who the current sign, like so when you say add to it, I don't know who the current science team is or who's made up of that.
Yeah, so at least in the charter, the description is similar to IEO, where it's the leads from the subcommittees make up a committee. So as Frank just described, that hasn't occurred, at least recently. He's gonna take on doing that at least once a year, and also attempting to answer Chris's request for, you know, here's the scope of activity, you know, and then the suggest that, you know, there's an oversight, I guess, really, Ed, is what you're looking, well, not oversight, but
Well, kind of.
where's the best, what, you know, is something that we've learned in one place, should that be, you know, picked up somewhere else? Where there are, you know, historic reasons why things were done differently. But now we're in a new place. So Frank, I mean, so do you think that that's, you can pull that into what you're gonna be engaging on?
Well, I mean, what you're talking about Ed's suggestion, because that's kind of a whole new level. I don't think we can jump into that right away. That I think we have to really think about how that should be done, whether that should even be done internally or with outside reviewers, for example. So, and that would be some resources required for something like that. So, just I guess I'm thinking baby steps on something like this. So, just being realistic about, you know, funding. You know, we only have so much funding to go around. We got a full plate, and so I'm just being realistic about what we can add to that plate without other stuff falling off.
No, okay, I appreciate that. You know, one of my mantras is crawl and then walk and then run. So we're gonna build this dashboard. We're gonna try to get, you know, the coordination occurring across the ecosystem science team. We're gonna get reporting out to the executives of the suite of activity, the funding commitments, and then we'll take the conversation from there.
And I should point
Okay.
out, there's quite a bit of cooperation, collaboration going on among the science teams. Maybe some of that is more behind the scenes than you realize, but there is quite a bit of that going on. So, and I think we just need to make a point of annually reporting on that, specifically on those collaborations.
All right, so we're at the point we've noticed for the public comments. The big overarching topic that we have left is conflict reduction. We know that is being worked in subcommittees. We know it's being worked by other partners. And the question is what if any goal statement is there at the IGBC level, and who might be the group tasked, because our charter doesn't currently have, you know, an overarching conflict team. We talked about Bear Smart communities, which would have been the community aspect of it, but there's a whole other set of conflict out there, some of which we heard about yesterday. So that's what's coming next. But we'll pause here, and I don't know that we have very many members of the public on the. But if we, let's see if folks do want to say something now, or so if you are a member of the public and you've been listening to this discussion as we've been deep in the weeds of this executive conversation, please unmute yourself, turn your camera on, state your name and where you're from, and we would love to hear from you. Okay, so thanks for that. So if at some point later in the conversation, we'll pause one more time before we adjourn, but appreciate that. Thank you for those who are listening. So let's move then into this conflict question. Is there, and there were some of the overarching statements from previous years about looking at recreation and understanding things there. There's clearly a need to work on private lands and specifically with livestock, and we've heard from USDA Wildlife Services and other partners that are doing work in that arena. So I guess, I don't know if we have near-term goals that need to be assigned, or if we have a group that needs to be stood up that's regional, or if we have tasks back to subcommittees related to conflict. Open question. It's okay if there's not an answer, because again, crawl, walk, run, we can pick this up again, but it's been, we know there's energy, there's capacity beyond this group. It's important in many places. But is it something you want to take on here as the executive group?
Hey, David.
Yeah.
I guess I'm thinking about, I really like what we left this conversation the other day. Hillary mentioned there's just all these other entities that are really involved in it. I wonder, we had the IEO summit, and a lot of good things came out of the summit, and a lot of good, brought in people from the subcommittees, you brought in people from everywhere, and you had this huge summit. Maybe I missed it if we had a conflict summit. Could we consider a conflict summit and then maybe have things come out of that, come back to us to say that here's some recommendations back. I think, the different ecosystems are dealing with different types of conflict. And so I think for us to think there's a model that everyone should follow, but maybe it would be good to hear from all the people that are doing it, to give us an awareness and come back to us with recommendations of what we should consider.
Who would take the lead on that? Because that's one of the questions is we really don't have an established team. So would we task that to the subcommittees to come up with that? Would that be a task to them to work together to come up with a conflict summit? I'm trying to think of how we would move this forward.
Sure, yeah, it's great. I mean, I don't know, how did the INE?
The original summit was put on by Fish, Wildlife and Parks.
Okay.
And so, a couple things that came out of it, they have a compendium, like phone book that they had a worksheet that everyone that wanted to participate could, and it kind of gave a phone book of who's doing what and that type of thing. But then it was a 3-day, you got together as a social, there was a panel on high-speed rec, and then there was discussions led by a facilitator. So, and yeah, a lot of good came out of it. We're planning on potentially doing the same thing next year, and just making sure that we're continuing giving the a chance for everybody to meet, but then kind of moving forward with, education workshops or whatever. And so that's kind of the idea. And we're rotating it, and we thought it could be like an every 3 to 5 year thing and rotating it. So this one we would like to do in Coeur d'Alene. Then
Are you rotating the lead then based on the location?
No.
Or
no,
no? Okay.
no, that's
No,
it's
you
the
own it.
chair.
It's
Yeah.
owned. Yeah.
This is from the.
Yeah.
local
Oh, yeah. I mean,
IEO.
all the IEO subcommittee, of course. Yeah. Leading this.
So that would just be the question, Chris.
Yeah.
Right.
How to,
Yeah, so I think that's probably not insurmountable, but I could identify a couple of folks from my agency that are up to their neck in conflict management and resolution that, so I like that. And I think that out of that, not being pre-decisional, but the IEO subcommittee, I think, pouring its value out time and time again. We do a lot of conflict stuff to the in the service now as conflict coordinator and the build out there. The states certainly are building out more. It's just the reality that under this kind of umbrella governance, I think it's not out of the realm of possibility or usefulness that a conflict subcommittee could be a real build out of IGBC so that there's coordination. It's different in different places, but it's similar in different places too. Board teams, all of that stuff. I think there could be value. So, and it might start with kind of this collective workshop, and out of that comes some synergy that looks like a subcommittee structure that helps coordinate, share resources and Hillary, you got a conflict coordinator. Sounds like to me.
He's looking down right now.
He's looking at the floor right now.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, I mean, what if there's a small group of people that are tasked with planning this thing? And one person, that's a big job for one person. And we can participate in that, being one of the members.
Just have one question. So this is pre my existence on this executive committee, but in 2019, series of workshops, right? Backcountry modalities, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So is this,
That was yes level.
yes level provided to, but then recommendations were provided to activists. So is this kind of like a taking that and
Expansion.
applying? This isn't right.
Yeah, expansion.
Yes, and but that is an instructive history because yes kept coming back to what can we as the IGBC agencies actually do? So backcountry infrastructure on national forest lands, they made some progress. Livestock conflict was harder in that setting. And you know, I actually feel like if we're going to task a small group, what is the region? Is there a set of regional questions that may be around capacity, finding dollars to support people doing work? So Hillary, you had mentioned, you know, asking that, getting that briefing from folks that are looking
Yeah,
at
I think that-
cross-cutting, you know, things that are available in USDA and other places. So, you know, so which, because we have Bear Smart Communities, which potentially is engaging local communities. We're trying to get, we're recognizing that, especially with conflict, it's people that are beyond the agencies can be supportive. We have expertise, but we're not the ones taking actions in many ways. But maybe we can help people take actions and provide them with tools and resources. So I guess the cautionary note from Lori and the IEO group is that at the summit, one of the
Overwhelming.
Why don't you share
Yeah,
what happened?
so the 2019 summit was my first meeting being the IEO chair, so it was still really kind of like all you guys have felt your first meeting. And our director Martha was there, and overwhelmingly everybody, NGOs and everybody wanted IGBC to be the overarching umbrella to hold, you know, have a database full of this, have a, you know, this, and it was like, oh no. So that was just a caution. I think it's a good place to form, you know, relationships and to know what people are going on. And, you know, I mean, like yesterday we heard, like, we were just having conversations like, do you know about the livestock, you know, the livestock pickup program? And, you know, there's some like, oh, we've never heard about that. So like what, so sharing ideas that people do on the ground and really, and I think moving it around, because not everybody's going, you know, like we're talking about IEO in Wyoming, but getting to Cody or like, where do you go and make, but you know, that would be super beneficial for livestock people. And so you could have one and then you rotate it around. But and I think that we could have maybe it would have been nice to know where the facilitator was going with like some of the points they were making and the questions they were asking, because then we could have avoided this, like, who should do it? And everyone's like, IGBC. So I think you can do a summit very thoughtfully and make sure you get good information and not trying to task.
In some ways, it may be easier in conflict because it's not, we have other agencies. We
Yeah,
have,
yeah.
Private land and producer interests, and we're in a support role.
Yeah, so that would just.
Okay, so Hillary, I feel like, so we you know, this is half baked. We're gonna have to come back to it in December. The challenge always when we do the push to December is, yeah, we can think a little bit more.
But maybe for December, we have the presentation that Hillary, that we, from those people who are doing some of this work. So that could be built into the agenda, and then with the, because that's a good time. We can be doing some work between now and then on the possible summit, but, you know, maybe spring would be the right time to think about that. But at least have the presentation by those folks for December.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who would be on the
Yeah.
committee?
Some members.
Well, we heard you with your, one of you guys would be participating. Chris seems, I can see eyes going right here. There's Forest Service commitment somewhere. Yeah.
So I will,
That's you. I just picked up on
Good
it,
answer,
feel the
Scott.
noise are between me. Yeah.
I'm gonna raise my hand, and then I guess a good question, we still do have,
Well, Ed had some interest or had some.
So I'm
willingness.
interested, in suggesting that Toby be our connection of fishing. I don't love that. I don't want to commit our on the ground folks because I don't want to take them away from their ability to actually do their job in managing, but Toby's in touch with those folks and understands the issue and the needs. So from a coordination of something, we put that on Toby's plate. The cat's too very nervous.
So that's a small team.
that's a good small team, and I guess one other, oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
One other thought, I'm recognizing that, John Steiber is here from, USDA Wildlife Services, so to the extent that private land, you know, and the livestock topic is one. When we did, Rick, when we did have the Cody workshop, we had a lot of producers that were interested and we're hearing, you know, things that work and interfacing with the Forest Service and talking about grazing issues and moving, you know, it was good. It was it was hard to get to the next step with it. So anyway, what do you think about, yeah, so
Yeah.
yes to that, okay. Okay, anything further? I'm getting head shakes. So yeah, just so that folks know, that was Hillary/Ben from Fish and Wildlife Service.
Scott Jackson.
I can't read my own
It
handwriting.
was-
Scott
it was
Jackson.
Chris, looking at Scott, but I got Scott.
From the
would love
Forest
to do
Service.
it.
I,
Yeah.
I will be happy to participate, Toby from Idaho Fish and Game, and John or a designee from Wildlife Services. So that is the last thing I have.
Not quite.
Not quite. Oh, well, no, that's right. There's two more things. Yep, okay.
Not quite.
You go, Jack.
Well, so, and, we need to talk about the December meeting and, you know, where and when. Ed and I were also discussing this last night, and his social calendar is a little bit tough for December. But we need to have a meeting. It would have to be late November or December. It'll be our transition, so it's my last, it's my swan song. Right now, we were holding from previous conversations, the 6th, 7th, and 8th of December. And so I think most of us have planned, but Ed, I mean, that's what we had landed on previously, that would work. The 6th, 7th, and 8th of December. That was what we had, I think, put a tentative hold. The next week I have a I have a conflict the 12th, 13th. But that would be,
Yeah, and ask if that's in person.
we would hope to be, because we do seem to make headway, if at all. But it'll be hybrid. That is the commitment we've had, because we don't want to not provide, because you guys, I mean, have engaged meaningfully, and I can't see anybody out there, but I'm looking at the screen.
Sorry.
Go ahead, no, it's okay. But you have engaged meaningfully and brought some really good things in, and we don't want to discount that there may be people, you know, that can't make it, but can still engage. So it'd be another hybrid meeting, so in person for those who can make it. This actually worked pretty well. I mean, short of not being with us on the field trip, but the December meeting is not really field going, so it would be way more in this format. I'm committing David to the hybrid, but I think it's the world we're in. So Ed, can you make that work? Can you make part of that work? I think the rest of us probably, and anybody else have a major conflict with that? Because that's what we've had sort of planned.
That's a 6, 7, 8, just, sorry,
Okay. Could you have a representative?
yes.
Okay. If the majority of the group is still good, I think it's probably good to move forward with that. Just because we have held that for a long time, so let's honor it. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go forward with that, but we'll work in coordination with you and who. Then now the second piece is historically, we've gone to Missoula. We don't have to go to Missoula. One of the things that came out yesterday is we're spending a lot of time talking about, yes, do we, you know, we could go to a place like Jackson. We can go to Missoula. We could go to Bozeman. I mean, Matt, you had thoughts or
I
input?
just pissed off all the people who lived in Missoula every time I talked about the absence of the sun in Missoula in the month of December. But,
You live in
I
Denver.
decided not to beat that drum anymore, because as chair, I could not change it, so I don't presume I could change it as a mere peon on the committee. now,
Mortal.
so.
But we are open. There's nothing sacred about that. And so I am completely, you know, I'll go wherever.
Jackson just might be a little pricey in December.
Right, yeah, because you're getting into ski season.
If you even have availability.
Yeah. So thoughts? Missoula is a good default. I personally have no issue with Missoula. It's not Denver, so I'm happy. I'm going somewhere, but thoughts from anybody?
What about Bozeman?
We talked about Bozeman because you can fly right into Bozeman, and I don't know enough though about Bozeman. I would look to people who.
The sun is out in December in Bozeman.
That's, I mean, David's in Bozeman. I mean, that's.
Thoughts?
I like Bozeman.
Okay.
Since I'm not gonna-
You're not gonna do that.
Probably should say Billings.
Ed raised the point yesterday, the listed entity is the lower 48, so not Florida, why not Arizona?
California,
Occupied ecosystems, so.
We'll try to keep the span of legitimacy focused on somewhere where there might possibly be a bear.
We'll wait till Ed's chair for that out of the
Yeah,
box. thing.
Out of the box thinking. Okay, so Missoula, Bozeman, any strong feelings either way? They're pretty close. You can fly into both. I kind of like Bozeman.
Bozeman, I vote.
We'll check, you know, Matt mentioned the priciness possibility with Jackson. Bozeman is moving in that direction. So that's the only caveat is just if I can find, you know, the government rate, you know, that's and make it happen, we'll do it.
Okay,
Can't get it right now. You might-
yeah, if you're looking at December,
I mean,
that's,
yeah, it's amazing what's happening in that.
It's doing the same in Missoula though.
yeah, Missoula was almost priced out a couple years ago. So, I mean, we actually had issues getting that. So,
Yeah, Bozeman is most likely.
Bozeman does.
That's fine.
okay, so we're going to Bozeman if at all possible. Bless you, Hannah. I think I just saw you sneeze. All right, so that was pretty easy. The other thing, so this is for the federal side. So Ed and I are transitioning, and historically how this goes is there, whoever's like, I'm chair right now, so we have a state rep as the vice chair. So Ed stepping into the chair, so we would look to the federal side for the vice chair to step in. So Forest Service has had it, one of the things, we haven't had Park Service for a while. I'm looking at at members, haven't had Park Service for a while. I don't know, when was BLM?
Since I've been on, I don't think they've ever chaired.
Okay, or vice chair. So what, I would throw this open to the Fed side of, is there any sense of, maybe you guys think about if, you don't have to make the decision right now, but I'm putting it out there that we need a federal side to step in to work with Ed. So it can be Park Service, it can be BLM, it could be Forest Service too, but we'd like to rotate amongst the various folks. It wouldn't, I think feel right to go right back with Forest Service maybe at this time. So who else is out there? Matt's had it even you were Fish and Wildlife Service.
I was the last federal chair before you.
Okay, so resit with Fish and Wildlife Service, Forest Service. So, but yeah, USGS. So, open that up, and if anyone, if you have a sense, it's a really rewarding and challenging position at times, and you have to work closely as the vice chair and chair to
That's
find
the
your.
challenging part.
No, well, you got Ed, so, but that it's important work, and coming in and being able to, again, step into a different role. We have our agency roles, but then when you're chair and vice chair, it's being able to step in, lead through that larger piece of it. So I wanted to put that out there for thought, give you guys, something to kind of mull over. And then, if you have some interest, let David and I know, if someone's willing to think about stepping into that. Okay? Okay. That was what I had, the last.
One question.
Yes, sir.
We talked about task force subcommittee in the 5-year plan. Up with this, our 5-year plan. So it's 5 years. Plan for a plan.
So is there a plan at the executive level, or is there just the overarching goal statements? That's what I've seen.
Well, there's the overarching goal statements, but under that, there's specific tasks. So I think about some of the things we talked about doing that. For us, two real high priorities are D-list, Yellowstone D-list, and CDE. Recovered, that's in the overarching priorities. Yeah, the remnant analysis identifies the high priority. So things like that, seems like, again, we should identify those things that fit under what are the charter and the program.
So maybe at the December meeting, we come back, maybe that's something David and I can work on to come up with bring it forward, take a swag at it, and maybe have a draft to present to the group, and of course our job would be to get input from people, but going into, if it expires in 2022, then ideally we would have something to reaffirm or to present in December.
Yes, so the answer is yes, absolutely. That's what I want to get to. And so Ken, I'm gonna, if it's okay, I'd like to follow up with you and understand how this has been structured in the past. And one thing that I've struggled with is that it is such a long spreadsheet with so many cells. And I want to try to make it a little bit more visible. I want to put it in a format that we can see it and hold ourselves accountable for it, as opposed to it's just in there somewhere and no one knows. Only people who had experience with it, you know, well, put it in there in the first place, know it's there, you know what I mean? So,
So that would be a task though that will.
yeah, and that's definitely what I'm gonna be working back and forth with this with the subcommittees, but I guess I'm, you have to look at the spreadsheet again.
Yeah, I'm looking at a document. It's.
Yeah, it's
I
not a
do-
spreadsheet,
I
it's
do
a doc.
plan, Goals, objectives, and planned actions.
Ah, okay, all right.
It's not, yeah. Did you send it to me too, please?
Yeah.
That would have been what, 2018 timeframe?
Yeah.
5 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. Wow, time flies, right?
Yes, it does.
So this is good. With this, I feel like, you know, to me, again, in the position that I'm in, I really appreciate the discussion and progress this group has made today. It's gonna make my next 6 months, like I know what to do. And hopefully you'll feel that you've seen progress also when it comes back to you. So thank you.
And Lori, that'll be, at the December meeting. But we'll get it, you know, the goal is, and one of the things we're trying, and Hillary, this is a bit to your point, I think, on process protocol, and David's form follows fashion. We're really trying to implement and do a little bit better of getting stuff out ahead of time, having people have a chance to look at it. And it's an ongoing kind of process we're trying to improve upon. But that would be one of the goals, is to get anything that we're gonna talk about at the meeting out ahead of time, if we're gonna be looking for, you know, some kind of approval or concurrence. So we'll get to that. Good business management kind of stuff.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Talk about business management. You know, we've got a lot of stuff going on right now, and just like you said the other day, it's kind of hard to. I'm gonna say it's hard to keep the momentum, but it seems like it's. You know, there's only meeting twice, makes it tough.
I agree.
And we did an effort to tag on to, was it North American? I can't remember.
We did. We added a meet because
Right.
for the very thing you're talking about, too much gap space.
So I wonder if we should look at, but I know North American goes east-west, right?
And it's only every 2 years.
No, every
Oh,
year.
is it every year now?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
They just alternate with the half what.
Oh, maybe that's it. Yeah, I knew there was
But
some.
I didn't know
trail.
if there's, you know, if we wanted to do that, just so that we get it on our calendar, since there's, I don't know for North American, but like I said, I think it's probably an east-west thing, you know, which is there in Spokane, probably.
They go east. But I think that's what we should propose then as a part of this, what we present in December, and maybe make a note of that, David or Lori. Sorry, hand. That we do add that, because you are 100% correct. These 2 times, especially with the summer meeting having a day in the field, you have a day and a half then. Or actually, you have a day, because you have a half a day on the front, half a day. Yesterday, we morphed into a little bit more discussion. Being able to tie on to something that most of us go to anyway makes some sense. So we'll put that in for consideration to the group. I like that.
I mean, I know Waffle kind of mimics when we already meet, right? I mean, Waffle's in a week.
Next week.
They always have a winter meeting too, so
Yeah.
it seems like it'd be hard to piggyback on their efforts, but something that's in the spring, fall. What else is?
So it's March 20 to 24 in St. Louis.
Oh, that's good. Central. I mean, likewise.
And I will say that we were COVIDed out in March. We had intended to be present, and we were an associated meeting. We were on the calendar, on their official schedule. And it was, from my point of view, it was terrific, because hotels already handled, all the infrastructure is there. We would have just had a half day, or,
Be what we need.
whatever the need would be, to convene in that setting.
So we'll include that as a proposal then for the next, that 5-year December. And that should give us plenty of time, because we kind of started thinking about that in December last year of adding that in. It was actually even after that, I think. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah.
That's
Want to
good.
talk about no sun. Or.
Okay. Appreciate that. Bless you. Right, do we, want to run through on the screen? In like 5 minutes.
Well, forgive the jumbled staff work here. We're doing our best to
Yes.
reflect
It's real time.
these actions, but I guess, again, I want to thank the group because part of the reason this is jumbled is because there's been so many decisions. And so appreciate that. So did you, I don't know if, or if you want to scroll it or something.
I can, oh.
Yeah.
David, could you share the screen? We can't see it.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Sorry, Hannah.
Good call.
And I'll send this around for a, you
A
know,
draft review.
But we talked the budget, we're gonna reconvene the budget team, to put in place the FY '23 budget. We are gonna, do protocols and really also onboarding of new members. We've got the Bear Smart, the exec group is gonna be formed, they're gonna meet with the Bear Smart working group. And I guess, let's see, everyone, you can type while I'm talking.
Sure.
The addition to that is with a recommendation in December, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
To be presented.
I get, we've got 5 minutes here, but I want to have the who is going to do what by when. Then we have subcommittee direction. The immediate action is presuming we guys agree on this list. I'm going to turn around and contact the subcommittee chairs, let them know what this discussion was if they weren't with us today. I have my own task for them, which is, this format of the 5-year plan and sort of, basically it's the format that they will then work on at their fall meetings and that they will then use to report in December. So I will sort of work that up in dialogue with some others who've worked on that in the past and then communicate that with the subcommittee chairs. So where did the subcommittee stuff go? Oh, yeah, so, okay, well, I guess we'll just do it in the order you've got, so that's. I don't want to-
Sorry.
Yeah, so science, so at the IGBC level, IEO, you got your action.
One thing to add, Lori, up at the Consider Spring Fall in between meeting, the suggestion was at the North American
Okay.
to tie in to make it easy.
3/20/24. All right, so science, there was a initial stage here of connecting the science teams and doing a report in December, having a meeting and then reporting in December. And there'll be some directional here about what this executive group meant by that and why they're looking for that. Conflict, we've got a, interagency working group, to look at, again, what is needed at the IGBC level. Recommendation, and it will be helpful, I think, we've got Bear Smart working group on communities, so this, I think, is more in other areas, right, other conflict areas. And perhaps primarily livestock.
Big one.
So can I volunteer to be?
Yes. So did you add Rick?
Of course.
And I think this group recognizes that there are other partners in this area. Okay, yeah, no, I'm on. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, so that was the 5-year review plan. That's gonna be, I think we're gonna organize the whole December meeting around this 5-year plan. Which, and then what's that mean for the Yellowstone? It means organizing around the conservation strategy. So there's a tactical near-term action for them that I think we worked through pretty well. I don't think I need to spend time there.
And, but do we have that, you and I will do a call with this subcommittee?
Yep.
Yep, that's up here.
That's up there. Okay.
Yeah, so subcommittee chair call with Jack, David and
Okay.
Jackie.
Okay.
And again, this is rough, guys. I'll clean this all up and get it out to you. There was more on this.
Well, I didn't write down. I didn't know I was taking
No,
notes officially.
Okay, sorry.
But it was just, chat.
Yeah, no, I have it. So,
But Ken,
It's almost the same as yours.
yeah, it's basically organized around the conservation strategy and be able to report to that. There was new direction for Carbon Act Selkirk, and that sentence is one that you worked through. And there's interim meetings happening there, and that should be good. And then next,
oh, that's it.
that's it. And then that's right. And then for the other subcommittees, it's the update, refresh this 5-year plan and wherever that might be. So that's a lot. But it also sort of isn't, we're trying to be more efficient with what we already are doing. Versus limited capacity. We know that coordination is helpful. We want the coordination to be value add and not bureaucratic in nature. And I guess that's what I'm hopeful that we can, by doing this kind of exercise and by trying to do some more discipline in our meeting structures and what we're coming together working on, we'll get more out of this. So that's my hope. And again, I'm appreciative of where you got today.
Yeah, and I want to echo that. And I've tried to state this the last couple of days on, how do we make the most of the time together? How do we move forward? How do we redeem the responsibility? Good stuff is happening, and it is happening in the subcommittee. It has been happening with the executive committee. But how do we be really succinct and efficient and thoughtful and all that in moving forward in those bigger goals that we all as the committee and subcommittees have centered around. And so it feels good. And I know there's been, honestly, let's just say there's been a few painful moments. There has been probably, I tossed and turned it even a little bit last night, kind of thinking through, how to do this and be as respectful as possible to everybody from all the different perspectives and areas of responsibility that we have, because we all are coming from a little different piece of this. But how do we come together? And I think everyone has done a tremendous job of finding some kind of way to move forward collectively. And so I just appreciate that. I appreciate the attitudes. I appreciate the respectfulness and the commitment to continue that. That's what I have.
Great. Any other final thoughts today? Well, thanks again. Really appreciate everyone's participation, and we're on a course. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
You.